I'm over here doing the most. Happy New Year. Hey, Happy New Year Eve to everyone. Hey, Miss Erica, how are you? I am, if it seems that I'm distracted, I am because I'm trying to do the most. I'm trying to, like I did last week. Oh, there I am. Okay. I can't do that. All right. I'm trying to look at Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook all at the same time. And I'm just going to have to trust that they are all doing what they are supposed to doing. Hello, my name is Coach Yolanda, owner of Evolving Spirit Wellness and international spiritual life coach. I am a Reiki master teacher. I am a meditation guide. I am a certified birth doula, lactation coach, dot. And I am, of all things, very happy to be here. Happy, happy New Year, New Year's Eve. We talked about this, beloved. I'm gonna let you have it. We made it, y'all. We made it through 2023. We committed to something for an entire year. So if anyone in your life says you have commitment issues, you can tell them, no, I don't. I committed to inner child healing for an entire year. We may not have met every Sunday. We may not have met every Sunday at 1 o'clock, but we committed. We committed to doing the work. And if you can commit to continuously doing the work for yourself, there's nothing that you cannot do. Do not sell yourself short by saying, oh, that takes too long, or oh, I don't want to do it. Healing does not have to be this arduous process that you go through if you are committed, consistent, focused, and giving yourself grace. That's what we do here, Mama Meditations. I'm going to continue that in 2024. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we got 5 um, inner child healing tenets to wrap up. I was going to extend it until next year. Let's not do that. We, have talked about all of the developmental stages. We went from conception, we went all the way up to the developmental stage of 35 to 65. I did not really do 65 and beyond because I'm not there yet. And so I don't feel compelled to speak about something that I have not personally experienced. I can tell you what it may look like, but if I have not experienced it myself, I'm not going to talk about it. So we didn't talk about that particular span in life. And if there are individuals in this group that are in that developmental stage, why don't you reach out to me personally and I can give you more information? If it's something you want to plan for, we can certainly talk about it in 2024. We can do whatever we want. But I can't speak about it from a experience of I know what that's like because I'm not there yet. I'm 52. I'm 52. So I'm a long way off from that developmental stage. Doesn't mean that I can't prepare for it. Doesn't mean that I can't speak about some of those experiences. But hey, I love you too. Happy New Year, my coaching sister. But again, I love to talk about things that I have personally experienced or witnessed or have spoken to other people about. And being 65 is just not one of them. So we can talk about that next year. We are going to be talking about power. How do we tap into our own personal power? How do we speak from, live from, choose from that place of power that doesn't create an energy of betrayal of ourselves? We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But before we do that, let's quickly go through number 1 through number 14 of the tenets of inner child healing. And when I say go through quickly, I mean go through quickly because we have previous videos that you can go and look where we go in depth. But today we got to do 11 to 15, and I want to give them as much time and attention as they deserve. A lot of the things that we'll talk about today, we have already touched on, but I believe that they are important enough that we need to take a deep dive and meditate on that. Um, hey, Hope and Victory. Happy New Year to you as well. Hey, Natasha, Chi-Town in the house. Yes, blessed last day of 2023. Whoo, let me tell you, 2023 was good to me. I hope that you can see it that way. And I don't mean just because I got engaged. I don't mean just because grandbaby girl turned 3 and all of the other good things that happened. I mean all of the things that happened in this year, whether I would categorize them as good or bad, they were all lessons that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. You know, we see a lot of memes right now. People are like, what are you leaving in 2023? I'm not leaving anything because everything was a learning opportunity. Everything was a lesson. Everything has brought me to this moment. And so I don't want to leave it. I want to learn from it. And so maybe that's the better question. What have you learned in 2023 that you are taking with you as wisdom into 2024? What lessons showed up in a mighty way that you are now going to package and say, I'm going to keep this as wisdom that I can move forward, that's going to project me into 2024 as a more enlightened individual and being? The things that I think that I lost, they were not losses. They were lessons that I will carry with me. Maybe that's a more enlightened way of saying 2023, you were good to me. Because if we want 2024 to be good to us, we can't be bad mouthing 2023. You know, we can't leave in an energy of disappointment if we are expecting things to be different. So I'm going to leave on a good note because I'm entering into the new year on a good note. So thank you for all of the lessons that I have been provided that gave me the divine opportunity to see myself in a different way so that I can say, I learned that well and I don't want to revisit it in the same way. The lesson may come around again, but I'm more enlightened, I'm wiser, I'm more intelligent, and I'm more mindful of who I am. So when it comes back around, it's going to see a different me, and the response, the outcome, the consequences will be different. All right, let's go through these 1 through 14 really, really quick. And again, all of this work can be found in the book Healing the Child Within by Charles Whitfield. Let's go. Number 1, child is always innocent. Do not forget that when you are healing yourself, when you are doing this type of deep exploration of why things were the way they were when you were a child and you were always innocent. Please don't take on the burden of other people's behavior or the failures of other people's personal development as something that you have to pay for. I know we love to say that, you know, here we are cleaning up generational curses. If you have been chosen to clear something up in your lineage, in your family line, don't take it as a curse. Don't take it as something that you have now been cursed with. Take it as you are the one. No one else could have cleaned it up the way that you're about to clean it up for everybody. So it is a place of honor, but you are innocent. It's not your stuff, but you are cleaning it up. Number 2, all children, I don't care what they look like, how they came into the world, I don't care about their birth story, their family history, all children deserve care, protection, security, warmth, and appropriate skin contact. That is something that every human being should have every single day that they are living on this earth, and we know it to be true that it doesn't happen. Doesn't mean that it's still not deserved. Number 3, abuse of any form is going to create an imprint on your life. Whether you remember that abuse or not, whether you excuse it as something else, it creates an imprint in your life in some form or fashion. Experience of exploitation is something that all children have. We exploit children because they're cute and they're cuddly and we love to put them, you know, in front of the camera and say, look at this, look at this, look at this. We love to dress them up. We love to have them do the things that we weren't able to do. All of it is exploitative. It doesn't mean that all of it is damaging, doesn't mean that all of it is done with an intention of harm, but it happens. And what it does, it creates an experience of my feelings don't matter. I don't know how to think for myself. I don't know how to feel for myself. I don't know what's best for me because I'm waiting for other people to tell me what that is. I'm waiting for other people to tell me what I'm supposed to do instead of me discovering and developing that skill on my own. Society will often blame the child. We love to tell little people, little children who've only been in the world for a limited amount of time that they did something wrong and that they should know better. I hated hearing that from my caregivers. You should know better. How the heck I'm supposed to know better and I just got here? And y'all haven't been giving me a great example of what I should be doing because it's inconsistent and all over the place, but somehow I should know better. So we often will blame children for things that are not their fault. And that creates this energy of, well, I got to do what everybody tells me to do instead of following my heart. So when we are not trusting ourselves, it's something that we've been taught how to do from the time of our childhood. Children often make a commitment to heal their parents. Children learn very early on where their parents may be deficient. You know, if you had a parent who consistently broke promises, you know, if you had a parent that was consistently late in picking you up or dropping you off or told you one thing and did another. Children figure that out very early. And then we make this unconscious commitment to heal where our parents or caregivers may have fallen short. Sometimes we do it unconsciously, that the thing that my mother or father or my grandmother or the adults in my life didn't do for me, I'm going to do so that it somehow heals them and absolves them of the things that they didn't do. Number 7, personality dysfunction can occur when we repress childhood wounds, which is why we should not be out here repressing the things that have happened to us when we were children. I know it can be painful and we could feel like, and this is something that I had to deal with, it felt like I was betraying my parents to focus on some of the things that they did or did not do, because I love those people. I love my mother and I love my father, and I know that they love me as well as they could and probably more than I even know. And to talk about some of the places where they may not have done or created a safe environment for me, it felt like I was betraying them in some way. And so I called it other things. I repressed it. I repressed those wounds because I didn't want to feel like I was disrespectful to my parents. That can create personality dysfunctions. When you don't let those wounds come to the surface for healing, it can create within you the need and the desire to do things that you normally would not do or put up with things that you normally would not put up with. Hey, Giselle's in the house. Hey, hey, hey. It's a party now. Giselle's in the house. All right, let's go on to number 8. When healing occurs, disruption of old patterns follow. And we talked about this last week. When you are on your healing journey and you start to recognize that some of those survival tactics and what do we call survival tactics, and I can't think of the word, it'll come to me later. Those things don't work, they're not sustainable. And so you are not the old you. Other people may notice it before you do, where they're like, oh, you stop showing up, or oh, you stop calling, or oh, you don't seem to enjoy the things that you used to enjoy, or you now enjoy things that you never enjoyed before. So those old patterns that helped you make it through, get through the things that we learned as kids to kind of try to make our lives a little bit easier, they don't work. They're not sustainable. And so those old patterns will start to fall away. Healing will emerge in various ways. Healing is not always an enlightened feeling where you're like, oh, I'm so peaceful and things are so joyful. Sometimes it is so depressive and anxiety riddled that we can't see it as healing. Therefore, we don't want to do it. When something don't feel good, you don't want to do it. But sometimes the healing will create the discomfort that you need to start doing things differently, which is why so many of us sometimes avoid and repress and withdraw and, but that might be you going through the healing process. If you've ever had any kind of illness, you know that sometimes it gets really, really bad before it gets really, really good. And you have to just let it take its course. If you have a cold, if God forbid, you have COVID, you just got to let it take its course. And it's going to take you places that you never wanted to go. I had an illness. It was actually the same day that David and I got engaged. I was so sick. I was so sick, and there was nothing I could do. I just had to let it ride itself out until I was over it. Sometimes that's what healing feels like. We talked about this last week. Survival mode no longer works. Those things you used to do, those protective things, and we need to have a conversation, and we'll have it today, about protection versus healing. They are two very different things, and oftentimes protection will keep you from healing. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, survival mode doesn't work anymore. Those things that you used to do, defense mechanisms, that's the word that I couldn't think of. Those defense mechanisms, because when you are in survival mode, you are defending yourself against unseen, unheard, unrealized threats. They may be real to you, but they may not even be true. You know how we love to create a story about why people are doing what they're doing, saying, and all of those things? Those defense mechanisms, those protective measures that we all operate under, because that's what we learn to do. We're out here trying to survive, make it from day to day, from sun up to sundown, and we're navigating all of the other stuff that everybody else is going through. And so we create these defense mechanism, these coping skills. Coping is such a depressing word to me. Like, I don't want to cope. I want to thrive. I want to live with intention from a place of certainty. I don't want to feel like I got to wait for the next thing and the next thing and the next threat and the next threat. And I got to protect myself and bob and weave and, keep my head on a swivel. I don't want to feel like that. I know what that feels like. And that feeling comes from childhood when so many things are uncertain and unknown to you. And you're trying to navigate everybody else's stuff as your mind, as your brain, as your body is developing. I don't know if anyone remembers those awkward years when it felt like your body did not belong to yourself, like your knees would give out because you were growing, or your hips were expanding, so you just felt awkward, or your skin was breaking out because you got all of these hormonal changes going on. Like, the teenage years will take you through it physically, and you have no idea what is going on. Even if somebody gives you a book or makes you go to a class. Remember the class we all had to go through in health class that tried to explain our changing bodies? Unless you are going through it at that time, you don't know what to do. Your voice is changing, your breasts are expanding. The people you are attracted to start to become more attractive, and you're like, I don't even know what it is about that dusty boy that I like, but I like him, and he's dusty, but you like him, and you don't even know what that chemical thing that is going on within your body is. You start to develop all of these survival tools. You start to develop all of these immature thoughts and feelings just to make it through and to make life make sense. And when you have built your life on those survival tactics and you believe that you are protecting yourself, you will tell yourself that you are okay. You will tell yourself that this is the way that life is supposed to be, that I'm always supposed to be anxious, that I'm always supposed to, look at people as potential harmful entities. That doesn't work. When you start to become more enlightened and you start to see things in a different way, when you start to see yourself in a different way, those survival tactics are not going to work. And so your wounds are going to show up as survival tools, meaning the things that you think that you are doing to protect yourself are really the wounds opening up saying, please heal me. I don't want to be a people pleaser for the rest of my life. I want to be healed, which is why we feel uncomfortable, which is why we start seeing things. I had a dream last night. I shared it with my beloved. And what I got from that dream is you have got to stop or balance the way in which you pour into other people and you are not pouring into yourself. It was such a message to me that I could see the places and spaces where I'm doing that. And I know that that's a survival tool. That's something I learned in childhood. Let me make life easier for other people, and then it might be easier for me. Let me not be a burden to my parents, even though I'm hurting. I'm not going to tell anyone because then it might be easier for me. And then we learn other things in childhood that my voice doesn't matter. You just a kid. You do as I say, not as I do. You telling me to be honest, but I see you being dishonest. That does not make sense to my 11-year-old brain. You're telling me not to do things, but I see you doing those very same things. That doesn't make sense. And so we create these survival tools. Well, I just gonna have to go along to whatever they say because they're the adult. They know best. And I'm just here trying to survive and make it. And so those things that we create for ourselves to survive are often the inner child wounds that are asking to be healed. Like when someone asks you to do something and you know you don't want to do it, but your brain tells you, well, you got to do it because that's what you do. You help people. That uncomfortable feeling is your inner child saying, I don't want to do it. Stand up for us. Say something. Say no. Because I didn't have the chance when I was 10, 13, 15 to say no. You, as an adult, have the ability to stand up for yourself and say no. Please do it. That is your wound coming up saying, would you please heal me? And so oftentimes those wounds will look like numbness. We project our stuff onto other people or we deny things that happen. That's how we respond to the wounds. And it can feel like we're healing ourselves. I've said this before. It is very easy or convenient, I should say, for us to say that we've healed from something if we're no longer in it. So if you've left a relationship, a job, something that was causing you to operate in a way that was not your true self. And let's say you left that situation and that was your way of dealing with it. That wound is still there. It can feel like, well, I healed that. I left that man. I left that woman. I left that job. I left the country. I left. I cut that thing off. So I am healed. What you may have done is created yet another survival tool. I'm going to run from the thing that's causing me discomfort instead of doing some deep personal development to see why the discomfort is there to begin with. Why is it so hard for me to create a healthy boundary? Why is it so hard for me to say no? There are people who will go over hurdles, jump through rings of fire to avoid situations instead of meeting the situation head on and seeing what the issue is. How many of us avoid particular people at work? You park on the other side of the parking lot because you don't want to see those people, or when it's time for lunch, you eat in your car because you don't want to see that. Like you will do things that cause a great inconvenience to you instead of dealing with the issue at hand because that's what we've been taught to do. Instead of saying no, it's like, well, I'll just call out from work because I know they're going to ask me to do something today and I don't have the heart to say no. So I'll use up one of my sick days or vacation days just so I don't have to. Like, we will go through theatrics to avoid saying no to people. And we think that's healing. We think we've done a good job. I avoided Carolyn all day today. Yes, I had to eat my lunch in my car. Yes, I had to clock in early and clock out late. Yes, I had to hide under my desk when I heard her coming or go to the bathroom. I had to do all of those things. I did a good job. You took yourself through all of that to avoid a conversation or a confrontation that probably needs to happen. That's not healing. That's a protective measure that you are telling yourself is healing, and it's not. So stop it. Number 13, betrayal of your childhood self again and again and again and again and again cannot be tolerated. When those wounds are coming up, it's your inner child saying, would you please do something about this? Because we either could not do something about it way back when, We didn't learn how to do it. No one told us it was important to do. Whatever the case may be for you, if you don't address the inner child wounds, you are betraying yourself again. And you know what that feels like. We all do. We may not have had the language for it when we were little. I see it on a daily basis. Sometimes children will ask for something and their parent will say no. And it's not, not to say that they don't have a good reason of saying no. Children don't always understand why we say no. But the disappointment that comes over a child when they're being denied something that their heart wants, we know what that feels like. And oftentimes, when you're a child, no one explains to you the reason why. And sometimes we as adults, we even say, I'm not explaining myself to no child. Well, what you are also doing is you are denying that child the opportunity to learn that you're not going to get everything that you desire. And there are reasons for that. So even if you're having conversation with a 3-year-old and the 3-year-old doesn't understand it, you're still planting the seed of, when I say no, I'm going to explain to you why it's not good for you, so that you learn discernment, so that you learn you're not always going to get everything that you ask for, and there's a reason why. But we don't always take the time to do that with children. Yes, it takes a lot of time. And I was just having this conversation with one of the teachers at the center about potty training. And she's saying, potty training is so much more than you got to sit on the potty, you got to sit on the potty. You've got to have the skill to pull your clothes up and to pull them down independently. You have to have the skill to understand that there are layers of clothing that you have to navigate through. So therefore you got to go before you have. There are so many skills that young children have to develop to be ready to be potty trained. But we as adults are always just focused on the act. Got to sit on the potty, got to sit on the potty, got to sit on the potty. If you are not helping your young person, your little person, develop all of the skills, if they miss one of the skills, then they may not be as successful with potty training, or it may take longer than it normally would. I love to give this analogy, and it was something that was given to me when we were doing applied behavior therapy with Isaiah. And it's stacking, right? You got to stack skills. So let's say you were going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you ask someone, act as if you have never made a sandwich before in your life and tell me every single thing you have to do to make the sandwich. And so if you don't start with take the bread out of the bread box or the refrigerator, then you can't make the sandwich. Most people will say, well, you take the bread. Well, where am I supposed to get the bread from? If you don't allow people, if we don't allow ourselves the ability to develop skills in the way that we need to develop them, and we miss some steps, it can create what we talked about earlier, those personality things where, oh, I didn't learn how to self regulate my emotions, or I didn't learn how to be patient. I didn't learn how to have discernment. I didn't learn how to think for myself. I didn't learn how to feel because I was never given the opportunity to do that. When children are crying and we're trying to stop them from crying and shut them up, we are disrupting the natural order of developing skills that are going to be lifelong. And how many adults do we come in contact with on a day-to-day basis where we can say, somewhere in your life, you did not develop a particular skill. So you don't know how to be patient. You don't know how to wait your turn. You don't know how to not disrupt people when they're speaking. You don't know how to let other people have a voice because perhaps that wasn't a skill that was emphasized or taught or allowed in your development. When we think about children and their developing brains and all of the things that they have to process, and the time from birth to age 3, you are never going to learn as much as you learn in that birth to 3, birth to 5 time. You got to learn how to speak, how to walk, how to talk. All of those things you have to learn. And you have to learn that you are an independent individual who has thoughts and feelings and behaviors. Sometimes they don't even make sense to you. And you're dependent upon other people to help you through that process. And if there are things that disrupt that process, trauma, whatever that trauma looks like for you, trauma is a great disruptor of development. I'm trying to process how to tie my shoe, and my stomach has been, grumbling for 3 days. You trying to tell me to learn my ABCs, and I got to figure out how to not get hit when I get home. All of the things that children have to learn that turn into the things that adults build upon. If something disrupts that, it disrupts everything. But if we disrupt that as adults, then we are betraying our little people again and again. So, all of the numbness, all of the denial, the projection, all of those things that we develop to survive, if we don't heal that stuff, then we are betraying ourselves again and again. Number 14, triggers ignite healing. Whew. If nothing else, 2023 taught me how to heal based upon where I was triggered, how to look at myself from the outside in, so to speak, to say, "Ooh, that don't look good, Yolanda. That's not a good look. You were triggered, and so then you behaved in a particular way, and you think that you're healing yourself. But what you really did was moved right into defense mode. Somebody triggered you, something triggered you, you now feel defensive. And so your response to that is that flight, fight, flee, fawn, y'all know the trigger responses. Instead of, let's see what that looks like. Is that the me that I desire to be? It sure the hell ain't. So let me take that trigger and ignite some healing. Let me take that wound, and instead of responding with a survival tool or a coping mechanism, let me see it for what it is. It's a wound that's asking to be healed. And so while I don't want to be triggered, I do now recognize that my triggers are a pathway to healing. I can now look at it differently and say, "Woo, girl, that's not how you want to deal with that." I was triggered on Friday. I had a moment on Friday where someone triggered me, and it's taken me still with Sunday now. I'm still looking at the way I responded. I'm proud of my response because I created a boundary. Like, you're not going to do that. You are not going to operate that way in here around me. I don't tolerate that. And I did it in a respectful way. I didn't come out of character. I didn't personally attack anyone. I maintained a healthy boundary, but I absolutely noticed how it triggered me. Somebody else's behavior, somebody else's comment triggered me in such a way that I now want to look at it as, okay, that's a wound. Somebody stepped on a raw nerve, and we might want to heal that, or we might want to applaud ourselves for not responding in the way that we know that we wanted to or would have in the past. Because that's also very healing. When you can say to yourself, "Whoa, there's a whole lot of growth in me," because old me would have cussed you out. Old me would have responded differently. So healing is also acknowledging the ways in which you have grown, which you see yourself differently. That is also part of the healing process. And oftentimes, when we are triggered, it's when we get to see it. As I said earlier, when you remove yourself from a particular situation, it's very easy to say that you are healed from it until it comes around and you respond. And if you start to see a pattern of behavior, when I am triggered, I do this. When someone says something, does something, or when I see something, these are the things that I do. You have to acknowledge how you respond to external stimulus so that you can see if there are patterns of behavior that you want to change, that you want to heal. And oftentimes, I'm telling you, your triggers can be your greatest learning opportunity, which is why I say I don't want to cut anything off from 2020. I'm not cutting anything off that I experienced in 2023. I'm learning. And I'm grateful that I've been given a divine opportunity to learn. When someone allows you or says to you, I believe that you can learn this, it's because they see something within you that looks like opportunity. Oftentimes, when we are in educational settings and we're evaluating or assessing someone's ability to learn something, we're either like, I know they can get this. It may take a little longer, or we may have to use another tactic. It's not very often that you hear people say they are as dumb as a doornail and they just never gonna get it. Oftentimes, those of us who are educators will say, I know they have the ability and the capability to learn this particular skill. It may take them a different route, it may take me different tools in which to do it, but I'm confident that they can get it. And so I'm always grateful, not maybe not in the moment, that the universe believes that I have the opportunity or that I have the capability to learn all of the lessons that are being afforded to me. It's like, really, universe? You think I'm smart enough to figure this out? All right, if you believe that I am smart enough to figure out this great challenge, then I accept that. And I'm going to get about the business of figuring it out, of seeing it for what it is, an opportunity. And when you see things as opportunity, then the possibilities expand. I know I wrote that somewhere. I got to find it. But when you see everything as an opportunity, then the possibilities expand, and become more realistic. So look at the things that trigger you as a way to ignite your healing instead of a way for you to throw on your defense mechanism, your survival mode, and cut your losses and get out of there. Make sure that you are safe always, but also have enough accountability and belief in yourself to say, if this thing triggered me, I know I can heal it and I can see it and perceive it differently. Healing is a mess. I didn't know any other way to say this last one. Healing is an absolute mess. It's not cute. It's not always um, in the ways that we think it's going to be. Healing is a downright mess. It can be painful. It can hurt. It can feel like it's the very last thing you want to do. It can oftentimes take you into places and spaces that you don't want to go, never wanted to be, and can't wait to get out of. I can say that I now see places in my life and parts of my life as they were great opportunities to heal. I didn't know that at the time. I really thought that God's foot was on my neck and I was being punished for something. And, my blessings were never going to come. And why everybody else being blessed? And I'm over here being dragged through. I literally thought of my life that way many times instead of recognizing, baby, you in the healing process and it's messy. You are not being dragged, you're being carried. You are not being exposed to pain. Your wound is opening up so it can be healed. It's a much more enlightened way to see things and to see life. Instead of seeing life as beating you up, seeing life as preparing you for something greater. And that might seem like a spiritual bypass of, oh, everything is great. No, I'm telling you, it's absolutely downright messy. It's confusing. It's sad. You might be angry all the time. You might feel like you want to numb yourself. You might feel like you are above or below everyone else. It's a whole lot of mess, but it is so much more um, beneficial to your time here on earth than suffering? Why do we think that everything in our life is there to hurt us, harm us, or cause us harm? If you look at it that way, it absolutely will. If you look at everything as a threat, it's absolutely going to be threatening. That's the way you're looking at it. But if you can shift your perception to wait a minute, and A Course in Miracles, which I happen to have right here. Um, I was reading A Course in Miracles with my prayer partner, and we would each, take a different lesson every morning and read it, and then we would talk about it. And there was absolutely one lesson that stopped me in my tracks, and I'm trying to find it now. I thought I had it tagged in here. Oop, maybe I do. Is this it? That's not it. But essentially, the lesson is that the solution to every problem is in the problem, and it's in your perception. Number one, that you see it as a problem. If you are not seeing it as an opportunity, then you're always gonna see it as a problem, as something to hurt you, harm you, or cause you to be challenged. But if you see it as, woo, this is an opportunity for me to tap into the true essence of who I am, because somewhere there is an energy that believes that I am capable of figuring this out. And the first step in the solution to it is right in there where I'm at, right in here, right in here. It's not out there. And very often, because this is what we learn in childhood, that if I want to solve a problem, I got to go find someone else to help me solve it, because I don't believe in myself enough. 3-year olds, 4-year olds, 5-year olds are learning how to believe in themselves and their abilities and their capabilities. They're developing. And for many of us as adults, we're still developing. But believing in yourself, trusting in yourself first, healing those parts of you that are lying to you, that somehow you can't figure it out, that you don't know what to do, that you don't have the discernment, that you just don't know. That's the first hurdle you got to get over. That somehow the answer is not within you. Giselle says, the healing is in the challenge, the healing is in the problem. Um, as I was explaining to someone the other day, when you're sick, it would be as if imagine if you went to the doctor and you said what your symptoms were. I'm coughing, I have chills, I have aches, my chest hurts, my lungs hurt. This is what's going on with me. And the doctor came in the room and was like, all right, let me do all of this diagnostic stuff. Oh, you have pneumonia. And then just walked out. Imagine if that's what happened. You are hurting. You try to find the solution. You are given, it's identified for you. You got pneumonia. But then there's no medication, no remedy, no nothing. Just walks out the room. And for many of us, that's what happens when we're operating from a survival defensive protection mode. We absolutely connected with what the issue is, because it's bothering us every day. Saying yes to things I don't want to say yes to, in relationship with people that I don't even really like, in a job that I can't stand. Like, I know what the challenge, what the issue is. And I may have even gotten to a place where I have discovered, hopefully through inner child healing, where I've discovered why it is this is happening to me. If you are not invested in the solution, then all of this healing work is for nothing. We don't do this work just so we can say, "Oh, I know why I am the way I am, because my parents, didn't teach me how to create healthy boundaries." Okay, what you gonna do about it? Are you just gonna project that blame onto them and not do any of the additional healing work, which is, how do you show up differently? How do you show up differently? What are you going to do with that information? Why would we go through all 15 of these? Why would we do any of this work that we've done this entire year to remain the same? It's like I in this conversation that I'm having with someone that we don't always realize. Let's say you have a cold and you're like, let me go down to the drugstore and get me some NyQuil. Because we think the NyQuil is curing the cold. It's not. Over the counter medications don't cure anything, they alleviate the symptoms so that your body can do what it naturally knows how to do. Your body is out here fighting for you every single day, and we probably don't even acknowledge it. Our cells and our body are literally fighting for our survival every single day. And here we are feeding it stuff it ain't we're not supposed to eat, drinking stuff we're not supposed to drink, going in places we're not supposed to go on. And the cells in our body are like, I'm over here fighting for this fool, and they're not even helping. If you have an illness in your body, your body responds the way it's supposed to. Like, let me turn up the heat and create a fever so that this fool knows that there's something in our body that's not supposed to be here. Let me cough. Let me do all of the things that I know to do to let this person know we are not well. We are not in homeostasis. Something is amiss and it needs to be addressed. And we're out here, well, let me go do this, do that, do all of these external things so that I can feel better, not recognizing and realizing those things alleviate the symptoms. The real healing is already going on in your body. And so, if you want your mind to be healed and your soul to be healed, it cannot be an external experience only. It has to be an internal identification that something is amiss and we are going to do something about it, which is why we took a whole year on inner child healing, which is why next year we're going to take a whole year on working on coming from a place of power, identifying with our purpose, because it's not something that can be done in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. We got to take our time. The wound is asking to be healed. That is why you are experiencing discomfort. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to keep taking stuff to alleviate the symptoms, or are you really going to dig down deep and say, I gotta address this issue, and not because I'm a mess, but because I keep responding in messy ways. I keep responding in ways that gets me in more and more of a mess because I'm not trusting myself. I'm not honoring myself. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I desire. I'm letting other things tell me what is true for me instead of me getting to the truth of myself. And so, if there is anyone, and I'm not going to name names, or any particular part of you that feels that the answer to your challenging experiences is outside of you, it's not with me, it's not with any other person. I'm not going to be, I could never be like, you know what, in 30 days, you're going to have everything that you want in your life. I would never be so disrespectful to your healing process to say that to you. And if there are people who are saying that, I'm not going to tell you what to do. That would give me pause. Anyone telling me, oh, you could be totally transformed in 30 days. This is going to take the rest of our natural living human life to balance out. And just when you think you got one thing balanced, something else will come along and say, guess what? I would also like to be healed. So I'm going to show up in your relationships. I'm going to show up in every relationship you have. Because what other way do we get to see where we're at unless it's in a relationship? Whether it's your family, your friends, your job, everything is a relationship. Even the strangers that you come across for 2 seconds, 20 minutes, you're interacting. It's a relationship. And that's where you get to see, Are you really healed from those things you think you're healed for? Or did you tell yourself, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I'm leaving all of these things in 2023, so they will not show up in 2024. Guess what? They're going to show up. They are going to show up, particularly if you are trying to repress or deny that they exist. So if you think it's as simple as out of sight, out of mind, I'm here to tell you it's in you. You developed in it, you stewed in it. It might not even be your stuff. You might come from a family of people pleasers because that's what you saw, that's what you know to do. And so that is the way you operate in the world. And I'm not saying it's wrong to please people. I love pleasing people, but not at the expense of my own balance and harmony with myself. I can't betray my 5-year-old again. I can't betray 16-year-old Yolanda who felt like she couldn't tell anybody what was going on with her. I can't do that to her. I have to listen to her. And when I feel something, I got to trust it. If I feel like you're not good for me, I'm going to trust it because I know what that feels like. I've been knowing that since I was 5 years old. I know when an adult was doing something that they had no business doing. Even if I didn't have language or the maturity to say no, to say stop, and sometimes we blame ourselves. But that number one principle, children are innocent. It is not your fault that there were adults in your experience who did not know how to govern themselves. And so you do not have to be an adult that continuously lets people walk all over you. Even if those people are your family, they don't get to do that. I don't care who they are. You have to stand up for yourself. You have a spiritual responsibility to stand up for yourself, all versions of yourself. And so I'm grateful that in 2024, we get the divine opportunity to really get down to the nitty gritty of who we are, what it is that we desire. Because if you are not clear about that, then you will be like a plastic bag in the wind, just waiting for life to tell you what you're supposed to get, what you're supposed to have, instead of recognizing and realizing that the things that you love, desire, have been within you this entire time, and they wouldn't have been within you if you were not created for them to be a thing. It's like the things that you love to do, that's just not something that just happened. You came here with that energy. It's what pulled you into. It wasn't necessarily just the doctors that birthed you, but the energy pulled you into existence and said, this being has to be here at this time to bring forth these gifts because no one else can do it in the way that they are going to do it. Can you imagine if you operated from that place of power where you knew why you were created? Oh, Donna, I love that. Donna says she started writing oh my goodness, that's so delicious. And so it's such a wonderful gift to allow your inner children to be heard and to be seen. And you know what? You say right now that you don't know the things that you love to do. Well, you are talking to the right people by writing those letters to that inner child spirit that is still within you. You are going to learn, I'm telling you, you're going to tap into something that you probably have repressed or denied because other people were telling you what you were supposed to be, should be, could be. Imagine someone telling you what you could be. And how many times has that happened to us? I remember, and I think other people have said this, I remember sitting in my guidance counselor's office and them telling me, well, based upon your grades, this is what you should do. How dare you tell me what's in my heart and what I love to do? And because those things did not get poured into, They still live in me, but I don't give them the priority that they deserve because no one else saw it in me. I didn't see it in myself because it wasn't reflected. It wasn't reflected. Look at this. Look at this love. I love it. Woo! For all of us who are navigating this healing, messy journey, please give yourself grace because none of us have the instruction manual on how it's supposed to look like. But the more we have these kind of conversations, the more we can support each other through those journeys. And that's why it's so beautiful. Thank you, Donna, for sharing that because someone is going to see that and say, ooh, that's not something I ever considered. Let me start writing to my inner children and see what they have to say. Give them a voice. Give them the language that they did not have. Give them the space and the opportunity to develop a voice that deserves to be heard. Your 5-year-old deserves to be heard, your 15-year-old self. I don't know about y'all, but I know as a teenager, I never really like I always had a journal, I always had a diary. And even now, and I still have my diary from when I was 10 years old. And I read it sometimes and I'm like, "Ooh, this poor baby. This poor baby who thought that she did not have anyone else to tell these things to share these things to." I was always raised with a sensibility of God, but it was also with a sensibility that God, for whatever reason, I grew up, I was raised Baptist, Southern Baptist. I always had this imagery of God as being upset with me or angry with me because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. That the thoughts that I had were wrong and therefore I was wrong. So I'm embarrassed to have conversations with God. And so I would go to my diary to write all of those things, not, understanding that God is in all things. Um, but I read that diary now and I'm like, that poor baby felt like she had no one to tell these things to because people either were not going to listen or if they listened, they were going to dismiss it and tell her what she felt was not right or you shouldn't feel that way. And I remember, oh my goodness, I love to spend a lot of time in my bedroom alone because that's where I felt safe. And then here comes somebody telling me, you spending too much time by yourself. Something's wrong with you. Imagine someone telling you it's wrong for you to spend time with yourself. But that's what I was told. Too much alone time is not good for you. And so what happens? I grew up to be somebody that felt like, well, then I need to be where the people are. I got to be here. I got to be there. I got to be in this person's face, that person's face. And didn't learn how to be alone with my thoughts, to trust my feelings. And many of us have that same experience. So we may have grew up with an energy of shame and guilt and regret for the things we were thinking and feeling and going through, because that was my experience, a whole lot of shame as a teenager. You shouldn't be thinking that. You shouldn't be feeling that. You shouldn't be reading that. There were things that I wanted to read, and you shouldn't be reading that, which is why, side note, I am so happy for this retelling of The Color Purple because I remember being a young girl, finding that book in a place where I wasn't supposed to be. I was snooping in my cousin's closet. I found that book. And that book for me was confirmation that my thoughts and my feelings I wasn't alone in that. And I think I just heard Oprah say the same thing. It's like, 14-year-old Celie, I may not have been experiencing the things that she was experiencing, but it was so familiar. Some of the things that she said about herself. She always was told she was ugly. I absolutely felt ugly at 14. Hell, I felt ugly yesterday. So that book for me was everything. And then when the movie came out, I watched that movie every single day. Every single day, I would come home from school, make myself a sandwich, and watch The Color Purple. And my brother could not understand, why do you need to watch that movie every single day? Because it made sense. I may not have experienced everything that character experienced, but I know what she was talking about. Feeling ugly, not feeling heard, not feeling seen. I knew what that felt like. And I had a diary that I wrote in similar to the book. So healing is messy. It's messy, 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 messy. It's not pretty, which is why a lot of people avoid it. But I can tell you what, suffering serves no purpose for anyone. That was also something that I was raised to believe as a Baptist, that if you suffer long in this life, you will get a greater reward in the next life. And so, sacrifice and suffering, somehow those who suffered the most were going to be blessed the greatest. That was the lie that I was told and that I believed. So, at some point in time, suffering became what I wanted to subscribe to, what I wanted to do, because I saw my mother doing it. All she talked about is how horrible her life was, and oh my gosh, there's going to be a mansion for me waiting in heaven, and I'm like, well, I think that's what I'm supposed to do too. Suffer, suffer, suffer. Making choices and decisions from a place of suffering, settling for stuff. Well, if I suffer now, my reward in heaven will be greater. If I get into this relationship that I know it ain't no good for me, but maybe I'll be good for them, maybe I can change their life and therefore I will get a great reward. If I continuously pour into other people, then maybe I'll get a great reward. I owe my inner children a whole lot because they believed if they pleased people, if they were agreeable, if they did what other people said they were supposed to do, then they would get a great reward. And so I weep for my inner children. I don't know if y'all weep for yours, but I certainly weep for mine who believed a lot of that. And so my healing has had to look messy because that's a mess to kind of pull apart because it looks like the right thing to do. People pleasing, being available to everyone whenever they need you, saying yes to things even when you want to say no. That sounds like a great individual. That sounds like someone we want to be friends with, not recognizing and realizing that that person is dying inside because they don't believe that their voice matters, their feelings matter, or that they should be in places and spaces that celebrate them instead of tolerate them. I don't ever want anybody to tell me that I'm putting up with you. You don't have to. You really don't. And as I was making myself something to eat yesterday, I had this thought. It's like, there is someone for every single one of us that live as humans. There is someone in this world who absolutely cannot stand you for whatever reason. You might not even know those people. They may have saw you for 10 seconds and decided, I don't like her or I don't like him. There might be people in your life right now who absolutely love you, but there's something about you they just can't stand. It's like, I really love Karen, but I can't stand when she, wears that perfume that she wears. Like, I love her. She's a good person, but I can't stand that perfume. Or I can't tolerate the way she sings. Or if she brings a casserole to work one more time, I'm going to jump out the window. Like, you love them, but there's something about them that you just can't stand, right? You have to be able to be okay with that. We spend so much time trying to shape and mold ourselves into likable beings for other people that we miss the opportunity to really tap into, do I even like myself? I'm so worried about other people liking me, tolerating me, putting up with me. I don't even know if I like or tolerate myself. So hopefully in the year 2024, we get to liking ourselves in such a way that we're not worried about the people who don't like, or there's something about us that we can't stand. Now, hopefully, if you are moving in the world and you are purposely doing things to upset other people, you will check that, heal that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying when you are your true self, there are going to be people who don't like you. Are you going to let that impact you more than whether or not you like yourself? Donna says, the scripture about tribulation, suffering, producing perseverance. Yes, there is scripture, and it is my belief that that interpretation of, particular scriptures can also be used for manipulation. We cannot act as if religious institutions are not built upon manipulation, taking scripture and manipulating it in such a way that it benefits the religious institution. We can't act at that like that does not happen. And so the suffering absolutely can produce all of those character things. However, who said you had to stay in the suffering? Learn the lesson and then transform. I'm not saying that I'm not suffering right now. I know that there are parts of my life experience that are going to be painful until the day I take my last breath. I know it. And I know that there are parts of me that are going to suffer because of it. My intention is to live my life in such a way that my suffering does not dictate the way that I show up in the world, that I absolutely can transcend that suffering. And one of my very good friends posted on my Facebook page, she said, "You are true evidence that from your pain and suffering, something beautiful can emerge." And I'll take it. I will take that, because I'm sitting here on December 31st, 2023, telling you that I have immense pain and suffering in my heart. But I am grateful that my heart has expanded to allow for so much joy and love to also be occupied. And that, the beginning of this year, I said I wanted balance. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what it looked like. But the balance has been that those two realities can exist, the pain and the suffering. What you choose What you choose is up to you. And if you're going to allow your suffering to be the place that you make your choices and decisions from, then be prepared to suffer. However, if you're going to look at that pain and suffering and say, there is an opportunity for me to learn something here, and I'm going to transcend that pain and create something glorious, it's a courageous thing to do. And I know that we all do it on a daily basis, whether we acknowledge it. But the more you acknowledge it, the more you say, that's what I'm going to do with this pain. It doesn't go away, but it can be transformed. It can absolutely be transformed. So, yes, my tribulations have created an energy of perseverance, character development, and all of those other things that I have chosen as my points of power instead of my points of pain. I'm not saying and disregarding and acting like the pain is not there. I'm telling you that it's there, and I allow it to be there. I invite it in because you're going to show me something about myself. If I never allowed myself to grieve the losses that I've had in my life, I never would be experiencing the joy that I'm experiencing now. Absolutely would not happen. And so as we, turn the page on 2023, I'm not leaving nothing. I'm taking it all with me because it's wisdom that I've been able to transform into something greater. Now, not all of it. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. But I do want to share something that I wrote um, in my journal. I'm going to say about 5 weeks ago, because it was a shift. I don't know how it happens for you, and I know that it's different for everyone. But for me, when I have these shifts in my consciousness, I feel it physically. It's like That's the only way I can describe it. And so I'm at work. I sit there, and this feeling of peace just came over me, and I had to take out a pen and I wrote. And so I'm going to read you what I wrote. I believe moments of enlightenment should be documented. This morning at 7:37, I connected to the part of my consciousness that is unequivocally in love with my whole being, all of me, my physical self, my intelligence, my wisdom. I know that it can be a fleeting moment, which is why it deserves documentation. I spend an enormous amount of time reviewing every part of who I am with a critical view. I'm not enough in some places, I'm too much in others. And so to have this feeling of bliss is a triumph. And my prayer is that each of us have these moments and that they continue to multiply to carry us to the places where we are destined to go. Those magical places that are occupied by souls who are also brave enough to love themselves fiercely. That's what I wrote, I said like 4 or 5 weeks ago, because it was a feeling of, oh my God, Yolanda, I am so in love with who you are and who you are becoming. And you better write this down for those moments and those times when you don't feel that you are in love with yourself. But the more that we acknowledge that, the more that we will be put in places and spaces and environments and experiences with other energies that also know that. And oftentimes we think it's the rich people, it's the pretty people, it's the famous people who feel that way. And oftentimes it is revealed that it's not them. It has been my experience that the purest souls are often found in the most humbling places, and they are having the most humbling experiences. I find that with children, I find that with creatives, the artists, the poets, the painters, people who are courageous enough to see themselves, all of who they are, and not deny any of it. And so when you have those moments when you're like, this is the bliss that I've heard about. It's not an external experience. It's an internal experience of I love who I am. And to think that the universe is operating so that I can experience this, is clearing out all of this stuff that goes on in my head so that I can have this moment where I am so in love with myself. And when you operate from that place of knowing who you are and loving who you are, I am telling you, you connect with those energies. Doesn't mean that everyone in your life is going to fall away. It means the energy is different. So, those people who used to frustrate you, you have a certain level of compassion for them. Those experiences that used to frustrate you, you see it differently. I need y'all to be so fiercely in love with who you are in every single moment, whether you see yourself as beautiful or ugly, I don't care. Still be in love with yourself. It's like that line in The Color Purple. She's like, I might be black and ugly and all these things, but guess what? I'm still here, which means I love me, all of me. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you feel. I have connected to that place that has always been within me that loves me. And so that is what we're going to work on all year, 12 months, because that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It happens when we are committed, consistent, and focused with intention to love ourselves. And I'm so grateful that 2023 showed me that I am absolutely capable of holding pain in my heart and love at the same time. And that one doesn't get more of my attention than the other. They both get my attention. And I didn't know that. Even with all of the healing work that I have done, I didn't step into that fiercely to say, I'm deserving of love. I need it every single day in order to survive, but I need to create it within myself so that every place that I occupy, that's the space that I'm coming from. So even if I got to tell you off, I'm telling you off from a place of love, not from a place of you did something to me, I'm triggered, and now I got to cuss you out. But there is a dysfunction between us, and we got to clean it up. I love you. I love you too much to let you operate in dysfunction. And you're not going to take me there with you. And so, I wrote down what I desire for our mama meditations for 2024. And I know who I am. I want us all to be very clear about who we are with a level of confidence that is unshakable. Um, I want us to be in a place where we cannot exist in places where you cannot be who you are. And to understand that we're works in progress. Perfection is not the goal, acceptance is the goal. And knowing that we are works in progress means that we are constantly working towards something. Are you even clear about what you're working towards? Everything about you, your time, your attention, your focus, your energy, your body, your money, everything has to belong in places where the essence of who you are is present. You can't spend your money in places that don't honor you. You can't make your money in places that doesn't honor you. You can't hold money if you didn't earn it. Like all of it. I Who was that said that yesterday? I can't remember. It was someone accepting something. It'll come to me later. It's some actor, black actor. It's a man. I can see him saying it. You got to feel good about the money that you earn, and that you absolutely, it was Tiger Woods. That's who it was. It was Tiger Woods. When you have that feeling of, I earned this, I worked for it, I earned it, and so I don't have to feel any kind of way. I don't want my money to be funny. And I'm telling you, your money will be funny if you're taking money from people in places where you didn't earn it. You know, just be clear about where your financial rewards come from. And if it's coming from illegal, illicit places and spaces, you gotta feel some kind of way about it. Without judging or criticizing that. It's energy. I don't want any energy around me or in my purse or in my bank account that I got to be suspicious about or feel some kind of way about. I'll just say that. But the essence of who you are is the energy that you carry. And if you're walking around anxious and frustrated, then everything around you will be anxious and frustrating. And so let us be very clear about who we are in all that we do. And I'm grateful for all of the ways that 2023 showed me who I was and who I wasn't, and allowed me to trust myself. Man, listen, there's nothing more settling in your spirit than to know I did well. I trusted myself. Even if it didn't get me what I wanted. I trusted myself. I didn't betray myself. I didn't show up in the way that old me would have showed up. New me showed up, stood her ground, said this is the way that it's going to be, even if I lose everything, I've lost nothing if I've retained a sense of who I am. You are so welcome. Thank you for attending today. So whatever y'all are going to do with the remaining hours of 2023, please do it in a spirit of courage And what that means is be accountable for the choices and the decisions that you made this year, not in a way that makes you out to be a villain or a victim, but to say, you know what? I made some choices from fear. I was afraid of losing this, losing that. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to do these things. And so my choices reflected that. And I can own that. And I can say that that's not the way I want to show up. And so I'm going to do the work so that my choices are not made from fear, but are made from a place of love. That I can sleep at night like a bug on a rug, knowing that I was my authentic self. That I said no when I meant no, that I said yes when I meant yes, and that I said, you know what, let me take some time to think about it because I am unclear. That I told people when I didn't know instead of making up stuff because I was afraid to be uncertain. We can't even be afraid to be uncertain. If you're not clear, then say it. I am unclear. And I'm going to get about the business of being clear. And I know what that process looks like for me. And so that's my answer. I don't know. Or my answer is yes, and it's a complete sentence, or my answer is no, and it's a complete sentence. And I don't have to intellectualize or label it for you or anyone else. And I'm okay with you not being okay with my decision. I have to be okay with it. I can't betray myself because that's happened too many times in my life in the past. And we don't do that. We don't betray ourselves for anyone's benefit. And so I hope that as Donna has demonstrated, that you connect with your inner children today because the work doesn't stop just because we're moving on to something else. I hope that if you find it beneficial, that you go back and look at the other videos. They are on the YouTube channel. We just started streaming live to Instagram. That will continue next year. But so this is going to be the format. So every Sunday, we are going to make a commitment for the week on clarity. We're going to work on clarity. How do we do that? We'll talk about that next year. We are going to be very, very honest and truthful with ourselves, and it might look messy. It might look dirty. It might be the thing that you don't want to do. And oftentimes people will tell you the thing you don't want to do is the thing that you probably need to do the most to get through to the other side. Don't sell yourself short. We can do this. I don't know what the end of 2024 is going to look like, but what I do know is that for every single week in 2024, we are going to have an intention on being very clear. We are going to create boundaries, woohoo, that have consequences, woohoo. We are going to be accountable to one another. We are going to be, oh my God, one of the words that I don't like, vulnerable, ripping open our hearts to ask our hearts, what is it that you desire? And why do you think it's not happening? We are going to tell the truth. And it's not going to be about our mamas, our papas, our siblings, it's going to be about us. We get to focus on us. And it's not a selfish thing to do. It is what is necessary for the collective consciousness because if my state of mind is not well, I can't be well in the world. And so I owe it to myself and I owe it to each and every single one of you to be as well and balanced in my mind as I possibly can be for the collective consciousness. And you owe me that as well. You owe it to me. You owe it to me. We owe it to each other. We have to be responsible for one another. We are on this big spinning rock together. We have to be more responsible and accountable to one another and the energy that we bring and take. Thank you, Giselle, for the gifts that you share with us. Because when you show up, like when I see y'all showing up consistently, my heart like the Grinch, my heart starts to grow and grow and grow and grow. And it's confirmation that we are, not me, that we are doing something wonderful. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Alicia Renee, the artist. I have never met you personally, but your spirit and the essence of who you are shows up in the people that do know you and have worked through with you. So thank you. And I am equally as excited to expand my universe to include all of our work. All of our work is so important. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, I am excited to spend the last couple of hours of this year with my beloved, with my family. I have one baby bird who is off in the world because that is her job. That is what she does. She's all the way on the West Coast. And so this is the second year where she has been out in the world instead of up under my wing. I love that for her. I miss her. I love her. Let's send her some good energy as she is continuing to literally fly around the world, spreading her sunshine. Hopefully, I'll get to see grandbaby girl, my oldest, my son in law, and love on them because that is what my intention is to do more of in 2024. It is also my intention. I've chosen my three values for 2024, and I don't mind sharing. They are study, spiritual growth, and harmony. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm already making choices and decisions from those places. Like, how am I going to study and also be a teacher? Because we are both at both times. So I'm excited to be a student of many of you. And that is something that I'm intending to do more of, watching and learning from others with intention. Um, what do you say, Alicia? Oh, generous and thank you so much. Listen, that's what we have to do more of. Love on one another so that we can't say that love is absent from our lives. Thank you, my dear. And to all of you who I have met through this platform this year, I hope that that relationship continues and expands. Maybe I'll show up wherever you are. That would be amazing. So let's put that out into the universe that we have been touched and impacted here virtually. If that is to happen physically, then let it be so. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. And my prayer is what I wrote 5 weeks ago, that the parts of you that are so in love with yourself, they are already present. They are already present within you. You don't have to be skinnier, taller, shorter. You don't have to cut your hair, put on eyelashes, get your nails done. You don't literally have to do anything else to connect with that part of you that loves yourself fiercely. It is already within you. It brought you into existence. It never left you. Peel away all of those other things that may be getting in the way so that you can get about the business of loving yourself profoundly and intensely so that everything around you looks similar. Looks similar. My beloved says, love on one another. I'm going to love on you greatly later, my love. And yes, grace and mercy. Do so with grace. Do all things with grace. Be gentle with yourself. Thank you, Donna. Be so gentle and loving with yourself, just like you were a newborn baby, because in some regard, every single one of us is like a newborn baby. He said, yes, mama. I love when he calls me that. Just get on over here so I can love you profoundly and greatly. I love y'all. Have an amazing rest of 2023. I will see you in 2024. If you don't find it to be disruptive to your day, could you please allow at a minimum 15 minutes to sit and to think and to hold space for those of us who are hurting because of losses, because of pain that we just haven't been able to move through yet. It is my intention to reach all of the energies in the universe and beyond, to send healing, to send love, to send grace and to send understanding to those who are hurting in places and spaces where love cannot reach in this moment because of a loss, because of pain, because of physical illness, whatever the matter may be. Please alleviate some of the suffering so that they can get to a place of healing, so that they can connect to those places and spaces that live within them, where they love themselves greatly. Let no harm come upon any hair on their body. Let them know that they are loved and protected. Let them know that they are safe, and that engaging in particular behaviors that would lead them to believe that they would be safe is not necessary because they have never been away from the reach and expansion of the divine most high. I am so thankful to be in a place and a space where I can join with other individuals to pray for those who may be in a place where they can't pray for themselves. And to all of that, I say, Amen, Ashe, it is, let it be. Let it be. For the rest of this year, let us all think about those who may not be in the place that we are right now, but are on their way. And as I love to say, all things are well or on their way to being well. I love y'all. See y'all in 2024. This could not have been any more special for the last part of this year. Yes, unconditional love and blessings. All right, Canada. All right, Canada. I love it. Yes, let us send that out as we think about the celebrations and the things. There are people who will be by themselves today. There are individuals who will not feel that love. Let's send that to the places and spaces where they believe that love is absent so that they know that it is not. And if there is someone that you need to reach out to today, please do so in love without all of the hip hop, bebop, you should have done this, we should have done that. If you can't say nothing else but I love you and hang the phone up, then just do that. I love y'all. Be good to yourselves, be good to one another, be patient with one another, and I will see you on the other side.